We call fruit nature's candy, but we tend to ignore the most important word in that phrase, candy. We've been told that because it's natural, right, it's therefore good for us. But the truth is, the fruit sitting in your kitchen right now is completely different from the fruit that our ancestors were eating. They've genetically modified and engineered the fruit in your kitchen to be bigger, sweeter, resistant to bugs eating it. And that change means that it's no longer being managed by our bodies well. Rather than being a healthy mid-afternoon snack that's going to help us to make it to the end of our day and, get to supper easily, it's like someone flipped a switch in our brain that's trapping us, making us hungrier and keeping us storing fat when the one thing we want to do is lose it. So let's look at why nature's candy might be the reason that you're stuck. If you're new here, I'm Violet. I make these videos because 8 years ago, I learned that the fruit that I would force myself to eat whenever I was trying to lose weight, whenever I was trying to get healthy, was actually the stuff that was keeping me sick and overweight. I'm sharing what I learned because I want you to have a chance to get your health back so you can get your life back and you can be living your life at your healthy weight. Please subscribe. And the irony is, we chase that afternoon pick-me-up, so that boost in energy, that sugar spike, when we don't even need it. Because your body has this built-in system to handle all of its sugar needs. I want to pause here and talk about the fact that we're taught that candy is bad for us because it's just sugar, right? My parents did not allow me to have candy whenever I wanted it. In my house, candy was a treat that was there occasionally. But fruit? My parents allowed me to have fruit whenever I wanted it. I could just go to the kitchen, get a piece of fruit, no problem. Why? Just like we have been taught. So I was taught by my parents, they were taught by their parents, and so on and so on. We were taught that fruit is healthy. It's good for us. And the sugar it contains is natural. So there's nothing to be afraid of. But I need us to understand that the sugar in fruit and the sugar in candy is pretty much the same stuff. And our body does not need either of them. Your body already has a self-sufficient fuel creation process, right? We produce the sugar our body needs. We produce all of it. We never need to eat a piece of fruit. Our body has the system called gluconeogenesis, which is when the liver makes sugar out of the materials that we've eaten that was not sugar. And it makes the exact right amount of glucose that your body will thrive on. Not just survive, it will thrive on. It is that precise. And what that means is that you never need to eat a piece of fruit ever again. But it's not just that you don't need to eat a piece of fruit. The real problem is that when we eat the engineered fruit that they've created for sweetness and blah, 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 we are flooding our bodies with fructose, a sugar that our body cells don't even recognize. So again, table sugar and lollipops and candy has 50% glucose, 50% fructose. But so does fruit. It's 50-50. Half of the sugar in fruit is fructose. The cells of our body have pathways, receptors, to use glucose for energy, to signal things happening in the body that it needs to signal. And glucose plays that role perfectly. What they don't have are pathways and receptors for fructose. To your cells, fructose is a foreign invader. So it is not fuel. It is circulating in your bloodstream, uninvited, unwanted, wreaking havoc. And here's the tragedy. Your brain doesn't know the difference. When we taste sweet, which is what tells our brain that sugar is coming in, and we taste sweet, your brain thinks that we're getting some glucose. It's preparing for glucose. But then when you eat the modern day fruit that's super high in fructose, and let me clarify that. Old fruit that our ancestors ate, yes, it had a bit of fructose. And as we learned from Dr. Maggs, our body has the ability to filter out in our intestines and then again through our liver, it has the ability to filter out a bit, like 5 grams worth of fructose per day. Not per meal, not per sitting, per day. When we eat today's fructose, and I'll give you the example, a medium-sized apple has about 10 to 12 grams of fructose because the entire apple is 25 grams of sugar. We are over the limit right there in one apple. Now, if we've also eaten some candy or some chocolate or, some of these beautiful snacks and whatever, we are putting ourselves so far above the amount of fructose that we should be having in our... Okay. When we eat this modern engineered fruit, our brain isn't signaling nutrition. It's signaling jackpot. It's like, whoa, look at this stuff. It registered that hyper concentrated sweetness as a massive survival reward. Because remember, your brain's job is to keep you alive. It's to keep you as healthy as possible. And in the history of us eating fruit occasionally, which would have happened in the season for it to happen just before winter, this sweetness would have signaled to my brain, this is not toxic. This is a safe way to put some fat on the body to make it through the winter where we tend to have a harder time catching food. Catching food. Notice I didn't say finding food. I said catching food. In the winter, where a lot of animals either fly south or hibernate, or basically they're hiding from the cold weather, they are not as accessible to us to catch. Having some extra weight on our body would have been a great thing. That's what I understand from all the readings about it. So our body sees this sweetness and it triggers a flood of dopamine and other chemicals to tell my body that, yeah, eat this stuff. Let's get prepared for winter, because this would only happen in the season for it to happen, for us to prepare for the coming winter. Today, we have access to sugar, so fruit. We have access to fruit January right through December. There isn't a month where we can't prepare our bodies for winter, winterize ourselves, except that we're not always walking into winter. Dopamine is driving us to seek out this high sugar food, this high energy food, because it's trying to get us to prepare for the winter that isn't here yet, or that we're in the middle of. We don't need to be preparing for it. And by the way, in none of these scenarios do we need to prepare for winter, because we have food at our disposal all the time, right? I can walk to my kitchen right now and there is meat. I can walk to my kitchen right now and there is eggs, there's poultry. I have fish in my freezer. I have all the things. What's happening is that modern day fruit is creating a biological mismatch. The fruit bypasses your I'm full signals and goes straight for the pleasure center in our brain, right? Because that is there to keep us eating the thing that's going to help us survive. So you aren't eating that complete bowl of grapes for the vitamins, right? You're eating it, well, you're finishing the bowl because that dopamine spike has triggered a survival mechanism that overrides the off switch. Now, since fructose wasn't invited, right, and it's causing damage inside, the liver, basically your body's bouncer, is called to kick fructose out. Your liver is the only organ that can metabolize fructose and stop the damage, right? Although your intestines will filter a bit of it. Filter it to where? I believe it's to your liver. So your liver is the only one that can get rid of it. metabolize it. But understand what that means. Your liver doesn't treat fructose like a fuel source. It's not distributing it amongst your body. It treats it like a threat to be neutralized. In fact, the liver treats fructose the same way, with the same type of hostility that it does, drinks. It locks it up in fat storage to make sure that it can't hurt you. So I want you to think about that comparison, the fructose and the stuff in drinks. You wouldn't pour yourself a cocktail for breakfast, would you? You would know that that would start your day off hard. Your body would just not feel great. It's not a great way to start your day. But biologically, the liver has to work just as hard to process, for example, a glass of orange juice. We are suffering from a massive blind spot when it comes to food. We treat one drink as a vice, right? A cocktail, but the other one, the orange juice, as a health tonic, even though they create the same strain on the liver. This isn't the energy that you were promised, Wellness Warrior. This becomes liver fat. It becomes visceral fat. That spare tire that none of us wants, that we know is a signal that our health is failing. So, if fruit is just a delivery system that burdens the liver, the solution seems simple, right? Just stop eating it. But the number one question that I get is, well, if I stop eating fruit, where am I going to get my vitamins from? I know that that question makes so much sense because we've been, again, marketed to so well that you absolutely have to have fruit for your vitamins. Like, are you going to get that vitamin C and all this stuff? But the answer is going to surprise you, Wellness Warrior. Fruit is not the only place where you can get vitamins. That is so false. It's insulting how much they've lied to us. And anyone who's done any kind of biology and physiology knows that meat, fish, poultry, they're the most nutrient dense sources of vitamins and minerals on the planet. But yet somehow then when we walk out of the school classroom and we're in the real world, we believe that we have to get these things from fruits and vegetables. When you eat a steak or a piece of salmon, you aren't just getting protein. You're getting B vitamins, you're getting iron, you're getting zinc, you're getting potassium, and you're getting them in the most bioavailable form possible. What's interesting is that Dr. Baker has even pointing us to the fact that you don't have to eat the organ meats to get those, although organ meats are higher in these vitamins, minerals, and all the micronutrients than muscle meat. But he's pointed out that we don't actually even have to do that. If we eat muscle meats, we are getting all that we need. You do not need to eat a banana to get potassium. A piece of meat has it, and your body can absorb it better because it isn't fighting against the sugar and the fiber of fruit. Stop categorizing fruit as an essential healthy food. It isn't. Not even in a long shot is it. We need to see it for what it is, a recreational treat. And if you wouldn't sit down right now and eat a Snickers bar or a bag of Ruffles, then don't eat a banana. They serve the same biological function. They're a quick recreational energy that your body doesn't actually need. When you feel that nagging hunger that makes you reach for fruit, that's a craving. And it's a craving for sugar that only exists in you because you eat the damn banana. Real hunger doesn't nag at you. Real hunger, actually, it comes and goes. Why does it do that? Because if you don't have something to eat right now, and you haven't been overeating fruit and other, silly things, if you haven't been overeating these things, then your body actually doesn't chase sugar. So then what your body will do when you're hungry, so that real hunger, is it will go into the system and it will pull some fat out of storage to make it to supper. And since we have the ability to walk to our kitchen and eat supper every single day, eat breakfast, lunch, and supper every single day, allow your body to snack on the fat that's on your body already that you've been trying to get rid of for years. I know I was. I spent years trying to lose weight. Lose a bit, put it back on. Lose a bit, put it back on. We are trying to solve that right here. If you focus on meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, and allow those foods to give your body all the building blocks that it needs, so the protein, those amino acids that build our body, and the fats, those lipids that build our body, and the clean energy, of course, that comes from those fats, your body will thrive. When you finally answer your body's requests for food with real food, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, that nutrient dense stuff that it's been asking you for the entire time, the constant need to snack on sweet stuff, that pick me up in the middle of the afternoon that your body's screaming for, it vanishes. And you know what the best part is? Because it isn't just that the cravings vanish, although I love that part. It's what happens to your daily life when you finally stop flipping that winter switch, right? That in your brain, every single afternoon you had been flipping a winter switch and eating stuff that was causing you to store fat. By turning that, well, keeping the switch off, right? You finally give your liver a break. You stop sending a daily delivery of fructose in there that's forcing it into emergency mode, right? It doesn't need to act like an enraged bouncer throwing fructose into fat storage every single day, right? And it can get back to doing what it was meant to do, being an efficient filtration system for your body, being an amazing energy manager, right? Because that's what your liver is supposed to be doing. And when you let your liver go back to its function, you return to a system that perfectly supplies sugar on demand, right? Since your body controls its own sugar, so the glucose, that's the only one it needs, the glucose. It doesn't need fructose, doesn't need lactose. Glucose is what it needs. And it produces its own glucose. It never makes more than you need. It never makes less than you need. So then you stop the flood of unregulated fructose in your body so your liver never has to scramble to find storage space again. So, the visceral fat, the fatty liver, it doesn't have to do that anymore. Now you can go ahead and eat fruit if you want to. I don't control you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. But stop telling yourself it's for health. I want you to be honest with yourself that if you're eating fruit, it's a recreational treat that you're eating for entertainment. It's not a requirement for survival. Because the moment that you stop pretending that nature's candy is fuel, you stop being a victim to the sugar trap, right? And you start being responsible for your health, Wellness Warrior. If you feel like you're just too dependent on the sweetness of fruit to give it up, this is the video to watch next. In this video, I break down exactly how to stop sugar cravings. So click on that link. I'll meet you over there.